Hello everyone, it's Alex from Bad Decks Play Badly, and this is the newest deck that I've come up with. If you like the deck, or if you like the channel, you like what I do, please like, please subscribe, please leave comments if there's any improvements you want to make. Yeah, that's kind of it. I do apologise for my last video. I got him through a bit of a wobbly playing that graveyard deck. Oh man, I just hate playing that deck. I mean, it's so optimal. Like, I don't think any deck, I honestly don't think I can make any deck which isn't a net deck which could beat that deck. I really struggle against that sort of deck. But yeah, hopefully this will do a bit better to take on the best decks in Modern. And yeah, I'll just get straight to it. So the whole point of this deck is called the Borrowers. The reason why it's called the Borrowers is because I'm actually using Wizards to borrow our opponent's stuff. Right, I'll basically show you what this deck's built around. This is pretty much a Wizard tribal deck in mono blue. But yeah, alright, I'll go to what we're going to go with, alright? So the deck is built around the card Vedalken Plotter. I've never seen it played in Modern, I've never really seen it played ever. I just saw it whilst just looking up, just on, you know, the card bots and just looking for ideas and just looking for wizards. And this one came up and it really kind of, it tickled my fancy, let's say. So basically it's just a 1/1 for free, which, you know, is kind of bad. But when it enters the battlefield, exchange control of target land you control and target land an opponent controls. So obviously in Modern, like a lot of people, there's a lot of, you know, 3-color decks, you know, quad color decks, even just 2-color decks, which run pretty low to the ground and don't really run that much land. Especially with all the fetch lands and all that stuff. They've got a lot of lands which they rely heavily on, like dual lands. So the whole point of this deck really is to keep them off that and kind of out-tempo them. I'm not sure how it's going to work, but it might work. So we'll see how it goes. So that's the kind of the plan. Swap our lands for their lands. Okay, so obviously if we're going to get one of their lands, we've got to give them one of our lands. So for the first time, I think I might start with the lands. So what lands have we got? There's 23 in total. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 islands. But, you know, if they're a blue deck, they can make use of islands. It's not very good for us. So on purpose, we've got to have very bad lands to swap for. So I've come with this. I want stuff that gives us value when it enters, but also gives them absolutely nothing once we've swapped it. So I've got 4 copies of Radiant Fountain. It's a colorless land, but when it comes in, we just gain 2 life. That's it. The good thing is, when we swap it, they've just got a colorless land. They don't gain any more life. It's practically useless to them. So that's our first land. And then the other lands is Zalfarin Voids. When it enters the battlefield, we get to scry 1, and it's a colorless land again. So both of these lands we get to swap and give them, you know, basically just colorless lands, and that's kind of it. It's kind of like the main point of the deck. But yeah, that's cool. Okay, so how can we make the most use out of using Vedalken Plotter? So because it's a wizard and there's a lot of stuff for wizard tribal, I thought I'd go wizard all out. So first things first, we need 4 copies of Essence Flux. Exile target creature, then return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. If it's a spirit, put a 1/1 counter on it. But I don't think we have any spirits, so we're just using it for the flicker effect. So if we got a Vedalken Plotter down, we get to swap, and then we get to flicker it. So we've now swapped 2 lands, and you can see where this is going. It can escalate. If all things go right, we can essentially keep them off like coloured lands, other than blue, I guess, because no matter what, we will swap a few islands with them. But we can still get rid of their dual lands, which is great. Just another 1-drop, Fairy Seer. It's not too great, it's just a 1/1 flying, but when it enters battlefield we scry 2, which is quite nice. And because it's a wizard, we get to take advantage of Naban Dean of Iteration. It's a 2-drop, 2/1. If a wizard enters battlefield under your control, calls its trigger's ability, basically the trigger twice. So play this, and I've now can scry 2. Don't like them, put both to the bottom, then scry 2 again. And this is kind of the key piece of the deck, other than Vedalken Plotter. Because obviously we've got, if we play this on turn 2, and then we play a Vedalken Plotter on turn 3, we've now swapped 2 of their lands. And as you can see, like on turn 3, getting 2 of your lands swapped out could be game ending. But that's kind of it. I've also got 4 copies of Spreading Seas. It's just for additional annoyance towards their lands. Like they're always going to have lands, but we're just hoping to keep them off colour rather than destroy their lands. So that's kind of it. Spreading Seas is good against Tron. It's good against other stuff as well, but it also turns whatever land we want into an island, which is great. Against control decks, they're going to have a lot of islands anyway, so this deck kind of will fall short against control, but we'll see how that goes. Okay, this is a new one. Another wizard. It's got Hideaway. What's it? Watcher for Tomorrow. This creature enters battlefield tapped. When it does, look at the top 4 cards of your library, exile 1 face down, and put the rest on the bottom of your library. When it leaves the battlefield, put the exiled card into your hand. So this is also great with Naban, because we get to essentially hide away twice. So we get to fetch up 2 cards if we want. And because we have Essence Fluxes, we can, in a pinch, we can, like, let's say, block, flicker it, hide away twice again, and get 2 cards out of it. It's just insane card draw. And it's a 2/1 body, which is not bad. It's a bear on turn 2. It's a great card. I've got 4 copies of Prophetic Prisms. This is purely just in case I swap all of my islands out and stuff like that. Like, because we're getting a lot of their lands back, we still want to be able to use lands and use blue mana. So these are just here really just so we can still play our game. It just turns any one of our lands into blue mana for us, really. And when it enters battlefield, we draw a card. I know there's that new Snow one, which is essentially Prophetic Prism but costs 1. But I haven't got the money for Snow permanents. I mean, I think just 4 copies of Snow lands are like, you know, 2 ticks. So it's gonna cost a bit just to get all the Snow lands. So for now, I'm okay. I will probably get Snow lands at some point and use the better one of this. I can't remember what it's called. The one that's currently being played in Standard. But at the moment, this will do. It's not ideal, but this will do nicely as a sort of budget alternative. Got more wizards and then more card draw. Champion of Wits. When it enters the battlefield, you may draw cards equal to its power. If you do, discard 2 cards. So when it comes in, draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards. It's good card filtering, and we get to eternalize it on turn 7 and essentially draw 4 cards and then discard 2. So it's just great sort of end game as well. And hopefully all of these little 2/1s will be enough if we keep them off mana. We'll have to see though. And as our finishes, we've got some great stuff for wizards. I've got 2 copies of Sower of Temptation. This was 4 copies, but I just didn't think it came up enough for me to want to play 4. When it enters battlefield, gain control of target creature for as long as Sower of Temptation remains on the battlefield. So we essentially get to borrow one of their creatures for a while. And if we've gotten a ban down, we get to borrow 2 creatures. And if they're off land and stuff like that, it could be really difficult for them to just get their creatures back or play their own creatures again. Yeah, so that's kind of it. And of course, 4 copies of Master of Waves. We're running a mono blue deck. You know, it's got protection from red, so we can't, you know, get bolted or anything like that. When it enters battlefield, create a number of 1/0 blue elemental token creatures equal to your devotion of blue, and they get +1/+1. So essentially we get, you know, what our devotion is, 2/1 elemental creatures, and this is kind of our finisher. It also will trigger twice because of Naban, so we can get a lot of elemental tokens, and that's kind of it. And we can also flicker it again if it's, you know, with Essence Flux. It's just a perfect card for this deck and a perfect finisher. And yeah, that is the deck. That is the Borrowers, the Borrowing Wizards. I'll take you to the sideboard now because I've been having a lot of problems with sideboards at the moment. So I've got 1 copy of Dispel, just against control, can't target instant spell. It's very self-explanatory. Graveyard decks are really an issue at the moment. So 3 copies of Relic Progenitus, and I really want to be able to draw at least 1 if I do go up against the graveyard deck again. I've got Boomerang, return target permanent to its owner's hand, so this is quite good against Planeswalkers, maybe returning a land to their hands, but returning a creature to their hand. It's just kind of a catch-all, which is rather nice, and it kind of fits in with what we're trying to do. I've got 2 copies of Damping Sphere. It's good against Tron, and it's good against Storm. We did go against a Storm deck in the last game, and it was kind of close, I guess, but you know what happens with Storm. You think you're winning and then they storm off on turn 3 and then you've lost. But yeah, Damping Sphere all the way. It's just good against a lot of matchups. I've got 1 Ratchet Bomb against, I don't know, just anything really, just mainly tokens or just getting rid of a lot of enchantments, or it's just a good catch-all. Everyone knows Ratchet Bomb is good. You know, take away an Aether Vial maybe. Good card, very good card. Against Planeswalkers, I've got 2 Imprisoned in the Moon. This is actually quite good actually, because not only can I get enchant a creature, land, or a Planeswalker, I can also actually, well, not adjust a creature or Planeswalker, just being able to enchant a land as well. It's kind of another way of keeping them off their colours, which is kind of cool. I've got one copy of Narset, Parter of Veils. Each opponent can't draw more than 1 card each turn. That's kind of what it's there for. Another one against Storm and the control decks. I get to look at the top 4 cards of my library. I'm going to reveal a non-creature, non-land card from among them and put it into my hand. That won't really come up too often. It's purely there for its passive ability of just not letting them draw too much, which is very nice. I've got 3 copies of Wizard's Retort, because why wouldn't you if I'm playing a Wizard Tribal deck. Essentially this is just a counter spell. I'm always going to have a Wizard, so it's always going to cost just 2 blue. Even if it's not, 3 for a normal counter spell is not so bad. It's just good against control and other decks where, you know, we run a lot of Planeswalkers, all that stuff. Just a great sideboard card. I did want to have it in main deck, but I was struggling to fit it. I could probably take out some of the like end game stuff, but I found that when kind of testing this deck, I just always wanted to find a Master of Waves. Every game I wanted to find Master of Waves, so I kind of put more copies in. And 1 copy of Dovin, Hand of Control. It's just good against control again. Artifact, instant, and sorcery spells. Opponents cost 1 more to cast. It's good against, you know, Storm. It's just good against a lot of stuff. And, you know, you can kind of fog an opponent for a turn, which is very nice. But that is it. That is The Borrowers. If you like the deck, as I said, like, subscribe, all that stuff. But I think it could be a fun one. God knows how competitive it's going to be. You know what Modern is like, especially in tournament practice. We're going to get some pretty good decks up against us. But I'm hoping that just being able, if they don't counter us on turn like 2 or 3, our creatures, I'm just kind of hoping that we can keep them off mana, and I'm hoping that we can out-temper them. We'll see. It might not work, but you never know. Alright, I'll see you guys for the games, and have a great day. Bye.